Hello class. In this video I'm going to take a little time to explain how to find x-intercepts or roots of equations. Sometimes we call them zeros of the function. We actually have done some of this in the past, but I think you've probably forgotten, or maybe you didn't realize what we were doing at that time. So let me go ahead and show you some examples, and hopefully things will become clear as we move along. So here I have an equation, x squared plus 4x equals negative 4. And we are going to solve this for x. Solve it for x. Now you can see it's a quadratic equation. I think that's pretty clear. So how do we go about solving it for x? Well, I'm going to attempt to write on this screen. It may be a little messy, but I hope you'll be able to follow along. So the first thing we want to do is to bring the negative 4 across the equal sign. So this will become x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. Okay. Now, I think you can see that this would factor. Hopefully you could observe that it would factor. Let's just try to do that. Although you were asked to graph by, or to solve by graphing, not by factoring. Notice how this would work. We'd put x and x, we put 2 and 2, and they would both be plus, like this. Which means that x plus 2 must be equal to 0, or x would be equal to negative 2. X would be negative 2. So that would be the 0 of the function. Now, we're going to use the Desmos Graphing Calculator to graph this parabolic equation up here, this quadratic equation, I should say, which is in the shape of a parabola. Let's go ahead and graph this thing and see what it looks like. So let me try to bring up my graphing calculator. Hopefully I can get that here somewhere. So here's the graphing calculator. Let's go ahead and put into this this equation of x squared plus 4x plus 4. So let's take a look at this in the Desmos Graphing Calculator and see what it looks like. Now first off, let's recognize that this is a quadratic equation, x squared plus 4x plus 4. And ordinarily it would be equal to y, or we might call it f of x equals x squared plus 4x plus 4. And the question is, when does the value of this function equal 0? Because that's what we've set it equal to. Notice over here that we have x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. In other words, we're asking, when does f of x equal 0? That's the question. When does f of x equal 0? At what value of x will the value of the function be equal to 0? This is what we mean by finding the roots of the equation. So let's go back to our graph and let's take a look at it. X squared plus 4x plus 4. Now, if we zoom in on this graph, move it around a little bit, you'll notice that the vertex is where? Right at negative 2. Notice on this particular equation over here on our left, over on this side, we have x equal to negative 2. X equal to negative 2 is what we solved when I was writing with my finger on the screen. You see that I came up with a solution of x equal to negative 2. That is the 0. That is the only 0, because notice we call this a double root. We have x plus 2 times x plus 2 equals 0. And what that means is that the two roots are the very same thing, x equal negative 2. So there's really just one root, x equal negative 2. Notice since there's only one root, that means the parabola can only cross the x-axis or touch the x-axis in one point. It can only touch in one point. Now, you know that parabolas are symmetrical. They have two arms going out, if you like, from the vertex. If it's only touching in one point, that means that the vertex itself is on the x-axis, which you can see here. Take a look at this graph. Notice that right here, the x-axis is touched by the vertex at the point -2. So the vertex is -2. To be precise, it's -2, 0 is the point. So if I put, see, -2, 0 is our point. So that is our solution. So if you were to be asked, what are the zeros of this function, or what are the roots of this function, or solve this equation for x, you come up with x equal to -2. And there you have it. Vertex is at -2, 0, and -2 on the x-axis, therefore, is our one and only root. Now, I think you can see that if this thing wasn't +4, what if it was plus maybe 6? Notice what just happened. It jumped upward. Does this graph now, does it have a root? Does it have a 0? Does it ever cross the x-axis now? And the answer is no. So if this had been our equation, we would have to say there were no roots, no solutions. Or to be more precise, there are no real solutions. There's a topic in math that you will study when you get to Algebra 2, where we talk about imaginary numbers, the number I. When you get to that topic, you can talk about imaginary roots, but for now, this thing has no real roots. So what if I did, instead of +6, what if I, or +4 like it was, what if I did just +2? Now look at this graph. Now it crosses in 2 points, not just 1 point. So this would have two solutions. This one here has one solution, and this one here has no solutions, no real solutions. So I hope that's helping to make things clear. So let's move on and do something else. See if we can find another expression here to be, or another equation that could challenge us maybe a little bit more. So in your assignment, let me see if I can get over here, we had a problem that looked like this. This was our first problem in the problem set. And what it said was you were to solve this equation by graphing 2x squared minus 8x equals 0. Okay, 2x squared minus 8x equals 0. Our job is to solve this thing, which we will attempt to do. How do we solve this? Well, again, do you remember the days of factoring? Do you think we could factor this? I think we could. What if we factored 2x out? Watch this. And again, you're to solve by graphing, but I want you to make the connection between factoring and graphing, and hopefully you'll begin to understand at a deeper level. What if I take 2x times x minus 4, and this is equal to 0? Well, I think you can see there are two possibilities. One is x equal to 0, because 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 times anything will be 0. Okay, or the other option would be x minus 4 equals 0, or x equals 4. So notice we have 0 and we have 4. 0 and 4. So to be precise, our 2 points, the two x-intercepts, if you like, are 0 and 4. Let me see if I can do this. 0, comma, or 0, 0 rather, and the other one is 4, 0. These are the two values of the x-intercepts. Let's do this by graphing now. 2x squared minus 8x. And remember now, when we talk about graphing, we're talking about graphing the function. graphing the function. What is the function here? The function is 2x squared minus 8x equals f of x. See, when we graph, we don't want just equal to 0. We want to show the whole graph, and then we want to look and see where does that graph cross the x-axis. And we see here it should cross in the points 0 and 4. So let's go over to our graphing utility, and let's see if we can't put this in here and make it work. So it's 2x squared, and it's minus, not plus, and it's 8x, and there's nothing over here. Okay, 2x squared minus 8x equals y, or f of x equals 2x squared minus 8x. So let's take a look at this. Zoom out a little bit. Where does this graph cross the x-axis? Here's the x-axis. Where does it cross? Notice it's going through the point 0 and through the point 4. Seeing this? 0. I click right here. What are the coordinates of this? 0, 0. That's the first one that we solved. And what's this one over here? 4, 0. The exact same solutions that I wrote on the screen, solving it through factoring. So 0, 0, and 4, 0. These are our two roots, our two x-intercepts, the two zeros of the function. There's many ways we can describe this. So if you were to solve by graphing, here you have the graph right here. We could export this graph. Okay, we could export this graph. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's download it as a PNG file. Yeah, that's better. Okay, we can say large square and thick lines. And let's download this PNG. So it's downloaded. I'll show in folder. It's right here. I'll just call it example graph. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Moodle. Here's Moodle. And let's proceed to answer this question. So we've solved it. This is a free giveaway for you. Nobody should miss this question. Everybody better get it right because I'm solving it for you. So type in your answer or highlight the no real solutions option if that's the option. So here we go. How many solutions were there? There were 2. So let's type in our answer. Number 1, the answer is 0, 0. Okay. And the second one is 4, 0. So those are my answers right there. Okay, 2 solutions, and we were to upload a graph because you were to solve by graphing. So right here is where we bring our file. You can click and to add a file. Okay, where are we going to get our file? We're going to get it from, we're going to upload a file. Where do we find that? You know what? The easiest way is to drag and drop. It has the drag and drop option. But we can still do this. So I go to my downloads. I'm looking for PNG. Here we go. Example graph. Right here it is. So I say open and upload this file. So it's uploading. And notice there's the graph that we've just done. Okay? So what's your answer? Your answer is 0, 0, and 4, 0. Those are your 2 zeros of the function. Sometimes we just say 0 and 4 because we're interested in the coordinates that are on the x-axis, in other words, the x coordinates. But to be precise, if you're listing the points, you give 0, 0, and 4, 0. And then we've uploaded the graph to prove the point, to say that yes, in fact, that's correct. Now, down here later, like at number 6, I think it is, there's another problem that's A little challenging maybe, although not too hard. I'm not going to solve this one for you, but I'll do something similar. So let's say that we have two numbers, and I'm going to go back to OneNote now so I can solve this over here. We want to have two numbers that when we multiply them together, x times y, we want the product to be equal to negative 21. Then we want the sum of the two numbers, x plus y, to be equal to negative 4. Okay? Now, this problem is actually a little bit harder than the one that I've assigned to you, though it's solved in the very same way. So in the second equation, what is y equal to? Y is equal to negative x, or the opposite of x, I should say, subtract 4. Okay? If I substitute that into the first equation, I'll then have that x times minus x minus 4, okay, equals negative 21. Okay. Now that I've done that, I go ahead and multiply, and notice that x times minus x is minus x squared. Okay, and then x minus 4 is minus 4x. And if I bring that 21 across the equal sign, it'll be plus 21 equals 0. Now, this problem, again, could be solved by factoring. We could multiply everything through by a negative 1 to get rid of that minus sign in front of the x squared if we wanted, or we could just leave it there. Either way, it should work. What if I change all the signs? And then I would have x squared plus 4x minus 21 equals 0. Okay. And if I factored that, what would we have? We would have like this equal to 0. We would have x and x. Factors of 21 are 3 and 7. 3 and 7, and they're opposite signs. The 7 has to be bigger because it's positive 4x, so I'm going to put plus here, and I'm going to put minus here. So that's factors out pretty good. So if the first one is 0, that means x would be equal to 3, or if the second one is 0, that would be x equals minus 7. Okay? So there. Two possible roots to this equation, 3 and negative 7. Now, remember, this problem said to find two numbers, x and y. X and y. Whatever x is, y will depend upon that, because in our expression over here, let me see if I can highlight this. In this part right here, this thing needs a bigger cursor. It's so hard to see. Okay. Right here we have y. Y equals minus x minus 4. So you just take whatever x is and work that out. So if x was 3, then y would be equal to the opposite of 3, or negative 3 minus 4, or negative 7. See? And y would be negative 7. Or if x was negative 7, then we'd have 7 minus 4, or 3 for y. So the two answers are 3 and minus 7. 3 and minus 7. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like on a graph. Now, what are we going to graph? What are we going to graph? We're going to graph the function f of x equals x squared plus 4x minus 21. X squared plus 4x minus 21 is what we're going to graph. So we're going to graph this right here. But we're going to graph it as not equal to 0. We're going to graph it as y equals, or f of x equals. Okay? X squared plus 4x minus 21. So let me switch over to our little graphing routine here. And let's go ahead and clear this out. We're going to say y equals x squared plus 4x minus 21. Okay. And did I do that right? Hold on just a second. X squared plus 4x minus 21. Yeah, okay. So here we have it. Let's zoom out a little bit, recenter our graph so we can see a little better. And what are the solutions? I need to expand this thing so we can see a little better. What are the solutions? Well, right here is an x-intercept, and down here is an x-intercept. What's this one? If I click on it, what do we have? 3, 0. What do we have down here? Negative 7, 0. So 3, negative 7. So it may seem a little strange to you that this graph of a quadratic equation, the parabola, solves this little puzzle problem for us. But it does. It works. So our two answers are 3 and negative 7. So how will we go about answering this? Well, first off, we download our graph. Okay, we download our graph like this. Click up here. We say export image. And I need to make this a little bit better. Yeah, like this. So we export our image, and we want it to be a large one. Still not very good, but it does show the solutions. So let's go ahead and download PNG. And I'd like to show this in the folder. And I'm going to call it example graph 2. Okay. Okay, so I go back then over here to Moodle, and I proceed to answer. Now, your problem is different, okay? It's a different problem. So what I'm going to paste here and what I'm going to write is not the answer to this problem. But just the same, this is how you'd go about it. You would say the two numbers, okay? So we're to use substitution and a quadratic formula. Probably would have been better to say quadratic equation rather than quadratic formula. But anyway, we are to go ahead and solve this. So I would use my math type here. I would go ahead and bring up my little toolbar here. Enlarge this. I'm going to use the writing thing, and I'd say that x times y equals negative 21. Okay, that's the first thing. I'm going to say okay. And I should put that in there. And then right underneath of that, I'll write my other equation. I'm going to say that x plus y equals negative 4. And I'll put that in there. And then we'll go ahead and solve for the rest of it. Then we could say that y equals minus x minus 4. Or, yeah, I'll just do that. So you kind of have to do this step by step. It should have been there, okay? And then down here we'll say the next one will be x times minus x minus 4 equals negative 21. Okay. We'll do this one. X times minus x minus 4 equals negative 21. Make sure that comes up right. Okay. Or minus x squared minus 4x plus 21 equals 0. And then we could go through and multiply by a minus 1, so we can write then x squared plus 4x minus 21 equals 0. And hopefully this thing will work correctly. Okay, looking fairly decent. Okay, then we'll go ahead and do another one here. Now I'm ready to factor. So I will have like this. I'm not sure. Something happened there. I don't know what I did. I'm going to have to start over again. Okay, so factoring. We're going to have x and x, 3 and 7, and it was plus and minus like that. Okay. So there you have it. Okay. So x equals 3 or x equals minus 7. And I'll do that separately. Then we'll say x equals 3 or x equals minus 7. It doesn't like my or, so I'll have to do it here. So x equals 3 or x equals minus 7. So what are the two numbers? The two numbers are 3 and negative 7. There you go. So that's how you would do that in math type. Down here now, we would like to bring our file. So I'm going to go over here and look for my file. And if you remember right, we called it example graph 2, I think we called it. And here again, I'm not sorted by type, so let me sort by type. Example graph 2. I just drag it down here. That's the easy way. Okay. And there's my graph. All right, well, I think that kind of sums up how you use math type, how you also go about using our Desmos Graphing Calculator, and how you find roots of quadratic equations. So guys, work hard, and I hope you enjoy this little video, even though it's a little slow as I switch between windows and try to write on the screen. I realize it's not probably the best way to do this, but it's the way I am able to at this point in time. If I had a graphics tablet, I could write with a stylus and it would be way faster and much easier to read. Using your finger to write math on the screen of the computer is not really the best thing, but I hope it was at least effective enough to show you how to do these problems. So best of wishes to you. Enjoy your homework. I always used to enjoy doing math problems. I hope you do too.